Welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia, episode 30. I'm your host, Ryan Black, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jacob Rush, and we are back, and we are playing with power. Jacob, how have you been this week?
Oh, dude, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing real good. Just been pulled out the 64 and playing my 64 today, and been playing on the Wii Virtual Console for some SNES games that I don't have physically. I had a great Mother's Day. Mother's Day was nice. It was beautiful weather. Been watering the flowers that we planted. I planted a bunch of flowers for my wife for Mother's Day, and we just had family over. Riley got dedicated at church. Things are good. The sun is shining. The weather's been beautiful around here. How about yourself?
Oh, it's been a very, very busy week. We moved a housemate out. Work has been just like running me through everything. It's just been crazy because everybody's like gearing up for Memorial Day, so everybody's trying to get the reservations in, and it's chaotic for sure. And I had to deal with airlines today, and that was another headache, but it's all good. It's all sorted out, and my Switch kept me going through all of it. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to that Memorial Day is right around the corner. I mean, it's funny. Last year I had a job, or the past 2 years I've had a job that actually gave Memorial Day off, and I have a job like that this year. And just before the past recent years, Memorial Day was just another day to me. I never got it off. I've always had jobs where you had to work, and a bunch of people, everyone else would be off, but not you, especially working at a gym. People come into the gym, I guess, on Memorial Day.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. It's just the weather's warming up. It's really nice. E3 is right on the cusp. I'm hearing a bunch of E3 news, so things are really good. Plus, I got this new Mac that I have been messing with and figuring out with. I'm in love with it. It's really helping it's going to help us with the show and all the things that we want to do. And I finally hooked up this mini keyboard I've had for 3 or 4 years. I got for Christmas, and it's just sat in the box. I finally opened it up, plugs right in, and I've been playing Donkey Kong Country music on it, figuring out stuff and recording myself just for fun. And so I love it, man.
Speaking of new equipment, I should be getting my new mic tomorrow, so my voice will be quite crisp after this.
Good.
There was an episode a while back that I tested out the mic, so that's the one I decided to go with. So it's the Turtle Beach mic, so I liked it. It definitely works for me. So
very nice.
We do have a returning guest.
Yes, first time.
What? Did you say first time?
First returning guest.
Okay, I would like to introduce, again, John Miller. What's up, John?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me back on. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be the first returning guest. That feels, I don't know, I feel like I should get a trophy for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool because John was our first guest ever, and he's also our first returning guest.
Man, I'm just breaking all kinds of ceilings here.
So, as in the first episode that we had a guest on, this is also a Pokemon episode.
It's Pokemon Master.
We have to bring on our fellow Pokemon trainer.
Master.
Elite trainer.
John's a Pokemon Master.
You're going to be the best like no one ever was, guys.
Keep training, man. You'll make it.
Yeah. We'll get there.
So, how have you been?
I've been great, man. Been keeping busy. I just had my son we just had his first birthday party, so that's always a blast. My wife wouldn't let me make it Pokemon themed this year, but I'm working on them. I did take both of my kids. I have a daughter who's 2.5, and I have a son who obviously just turned 1. And I took them to GameStop, and I laid out Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle plush figures, and I made them choose which one they would be because I just had to know what they would be. And my daughter immediately ran over and grabbed Squirtle, and I was like, all right, that's great. My son walked over, and he put his hand out on Bulbasaur, and my heart was like, oh, I chose Bulbasaur as my first. This is a son after my own heart. And then he pushed Bulbasaur out of the way, grabbed Charmander, and started chewing on his tail. So,
attaboy. You have a wise son.
He's a good kid. He's a good kid.
That's hilarious. Poor Bulbasaur. Poor all elite Pokemon kind of get the the backhand there, don't they?
Yeah, no, but man, Bulbasaur will always be my favorite because he was my first Pokemon ever that I chose from the beginning. So I've got a special place in my heart for Bulbasaur.
I will say Bulbasaur is the coolest Leaf starter that they've ever had. In my opinion, hands down, Bulbasaur is, I mean, he looks cool. I know what you mean. I mean, Squirtle, technically, before I really knew much about Pokemon, Squirtle was the first Pokemon I ever chose. But I have to admit, my heart grew over to Charmander and Charizard down the road, and Charizard's my favorite personally. But Squirtle, he does have a special place because I picked him first before anybody else ever.
Yep, and see, my daughter loves water, so I just figured, might as well. It just makes sense. That makes sense for her. And now I just think my son is a punk. Just likes to mess with my heart.
So, John, what have you been playing lately?
I've actually gone back a little bit for my 3DS. I've been playing Fire Emblem Awakening. That's been my game of choice recently. So that's been fun. It's actually my first in the Fire Emblem franchise. So it's been fun getting to know the characters and I haven't really played any of style that way. That's it's sort of a different RPG style that I am loving. At first, it was a little confusing. It took me a little bit to get the hang of it, but now, I love the strategy behind it. It's a blast.
Jacob, what have you been playing?
I feel kind of guilty here because I have Mario Kart 8 on my Switch, and since my explosion of overreaction a couple of weeks ago, I honestly haven't picked it up, and I feel bad because I'm like, they got this new hardware here, this new game. I have stuff I could be doing on it, but I don't know. It's like Mario Kart 8, it's not a bad game. Don't hate it at all. I'm not unhappy with it. It's just, I played it, I played it a lot on the Wii U from what I did. It's just not new for me, and I enjoy playing other people, and that's why I got it. But with how life works, I can't game every night with people. I can't, or even every weekend. I just, so it's really kind of just been sitting in the dock. I'm really just, if it was a brand new IP game, like Zelda was, Breath of the Wild, I would be all over it. But, Mario Kart 8 is something fun to come to and pick up for me. And besides that, I've beaten all my other Switch games. But what I have been playing is, I still have been tampering in with Star Fox 64 3DS here and there. Mm-hmm. But I'm still working on Mario RPG for the SNES. I got a little bit further today. I've been very busy the past week.
Good.
So I haven't been able to play tons, but I did get my first star today, and I'm on my route to the next one. And I can just say that game, I see a lot of the vibes. I see how Paper Mario was born from Mario RPG. I see this and I'm like, oh, this is a Paper Mario. And I even see the things that Paper Mario changed that I feel like I should be able to do in a Mario RPG that it didn't exist yet. So I've been playing that, and of course I've been playing for what our topic is for tonight. I'm doing some homework on that, just kind of diving into that world, and can I tell you, it has brought back a lot of memories. So, but that's what I've been playing.
I've just been, playing Mario Kart. I got on last weekend, and there was nobody on for the Super Indie podcast. I don't know if there's something wrong with my Switch or just no one got on and played when I got on, but I get on there and there was no ranking. So it looked like no one had done any races. And every time I get on there, I'd wait for half an hour. No one showed up. So I'm like, well, I'll go play something else. It's like what I just said. It's that new factor. I mean, everyone was excited at the launch, and it's still fun. It's still great. I know people who never had a Wii U that I know got a Switch now, and they're trying to 3-star every cup. A good listener, Jesse Armstrong, he has been telling me his adventures with the game, and he's working hard trying to 3-star every cup. So, I mean, there's people playing it, but I think a lot of these people are like what I just said. They've played it a lot, and it's the newness is wore off on it, and we're trying to fiddle around with some other stuff. I got my gold Mario, so I did the 200cc thing. I'm trying to do the mirror stuff now, which isn't too difficult now that I've done 200cc. It's all going to be pretty easy, I think, from here, if not a little frustrating because it's so slow paced. Other things I've been playing, there's this like spelunking cave game on the Japanese eShop that had a demo, and it's a Square Enix game, and I picked it up, and it's really charming. I like it a lot. It's got kind of like RPG elements where you level up. And it's really simple controls. Like you just like walk around in a cave and you do like short jumps, and it's your character is very fragile. Like in real life, like if you fall too far, like you'll break your leg. Like they do like a rocking, like they hurt their leg, or like you can like fall down chasms and stuff. And you're really fragile, but you have like a bunch of lives, and you have this. I guess it's like an oxygen factor, or maybe it's light or something, or you have to hit these save points to replenish that. So it keeps you progressing, and you collect keys and power-ups, and you get bombs and things. It was really good, and I got a lot of levels for just the demo. I was really impressed with that, and I was like, I wish that this was actually, readable for me. I don't really know Japanese at all, so I was just kind of playing through the menus, so I figured out how to get into the main game. But it was charming for sure. Now, one thing I did pick up and I did enjoy a lot, and I'm thinking about buying it now, and that's Blaster Master Zero. They had a demo on the eShop, and I picked that up. Just the demo, and it reminded me a bit of Metroid. Just that exploring, and I liked that there's like a vehicle you can ride around in. That's pretty much the primary mode of transportation, but then you can like get into like little, what I would call mouse holes, where you can get out and crawl into these smaller holes to go explore, and you get this kind of 360-degree range motion. You walk around like corridors and shoot enemies and stuff and collect power-ups. So I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was enjoyable for sure. You could play like the first level and the third level in the demo. So.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because I think that is a great way to segue into some topics here. So let's get into the news. Some news topics, Ryan, I actually wanted to bring in was about Master Blaster Zero that you just talked about. Let's see here. I got Master Blaster Zero and Disgaea 5. I wanted to talk about just some numbers. Like the Switch obviously we've slowly been getting games more and more and more each week. And Disgaea, we'll start off with the Disgaea 5 here real quick. It launched in the PS4 back in 2015. And then it came to the Switch in Japan at launch in March, beginning of March. But however, it did not do very well. It only had 20,000 units, but it is for pre-order in the West. So they're trying to bring it over to the West to see if it can be more successful. And so far, it has 110,000 units between Europe and US that have been pre-ordered. Which I think that's pretty significant numbers. Like the game is not even out yet, and it's getting a lot of positive feedback just to have that many already pre-ordered. And then with Blaster Master Zero, the game has been. Let's see here. It has had 80,000 downloads so far, with only 6 months of production by a 35-member team. How impressive is that? I mean, that's Nintendo's third party there. A third-party title, Blaster Master, earned 80,000 downloads so far within 6 months of production by a 35-member team. That's really insane. I mean, that's impressive. That is hopeful for Nintendo, and I think it is a great example, both these games, of that third parties don't need to worry. Like, stuff will sell if you make it and you put time and effort into it. Like, it's going to sell on the Switch. People want this. I can't even explain how, like, when I see games don't come to Switch, whether they run as powerful on the Switch or not, I can't help but think that, like, man, it is so much better to know that I can take something on the go now. Like, I have this mindset that I never had before, like playing. I guess it feels good to know that, like, if I'm playing a Pikmin, say Pikmin 3, how we had on the Wii U, you're stuck on the gamepad and in one room. It just feels so good to know that, like, if I want to be more focused, if I'm really kind of frustrated with the part, I can take this off I'll do this with Mario Kart when I'm really trying to focus. I'll take it off the big screen because that's how I prefer to play. And I would like have my face right in front of the screen, and I can like focus and do things better. I just think that's really cool. It's really cool that I can take this on the go with me. And it sounds so simple because like we've had portable systems for years. You know, Nintendo brought with the Game Boy, but it really is something new and different with the Switch. And it just, I know I'm saying stuff we already know. It just always like, I'm just like, wow, I'm always astonished still today that like, this is awesome that I can do this. So with these games, these third-party company games, having these good numbers, I think is a really good sign for the Switch and for the future. And hopefully other third parties are watching this and seeing these results and are going to be a little bit more comfortable. You even saw EA start talking about just this week, we're going to start bringing more games to the Switch. So I think people are starting to feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. The Switch brings you home. Like it's a home console, but you can also take it on the go, and it goes with you where you need to go, and that's a great versatility. I wanted to bring up real quick. I know you had mentioned Fire Emblem, John, and I just want to see like, are you interested in like the new entry coming out, the 3DS entry, Shadows of Valentia?
I haven't looked a whole lot into it, but it's definitely some franchise I'd want to continue exploring for sure. What more have they released about it?
It does come out on the 20th, so it's kind of a re-release. It's been updated, of course, but I believe if I remember right, it's the second Fire Emblem re-released, if I'm remembering right. But yeah, just released on the 3DS. It's their last hurrah on the 3DS. It's their last Fire Emblem entry, and I know that's taken off hugely in America, especially with starting with Smash Brothers. So that does kind of ring true to me with Roy and what have you. So that I had to collect those amiibos for sure. I had to grab those and track those down. So
and that's honestly one of the big reasons I wanted to try it, because I had heard of every other character except for the Fire Emblem characters. I hadn't played any games in their franchises, so I wanted to explore that, and that was fun. It's been a blast.
Cool.
And also, one thing I love about Smash is that when it first came out for the 64, I got to tell all of my friends who Ness was, because nobody knew who Ness was, and Earthbound was my favorite Super Nintendo game of all time. Anyway.
So there's been some rumors circulating around that there's a new Zelda app coming. There's the Animal Crossing one confirmed, so that's something to look forward to. They just had the Fire Emblem release app, so that's really cool to see that they're starting to put their different IPs out as an app form. I think it's kind of funny because it's like they're really wanting to capitalize on this. The thing that caught my attention the most was possibly the Pokemon TCG app. Now, if you know me, I have been playing obsessively the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links on my phone. Like, just obsessively playing that game. It takes you back to old Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you have the challenge of, like, low attack monsters, and you get some basic spells and traps. It just takes you back to the base of the game, and it's slowly built on itself with expansions. But to see like the Pokemon card game come, just like building off of the codes that you get from your Pokemon packs, and using that whole database that's online already, and just have that on the go at your fingertips, that is going to be huge if that's actually going to come to fruition. Now, this is all rumors, but it's looking good. I'm excited for this. And then I also want to touch on real quick there's a Mayan art style Zelda. Like, there's some art out there for Zelda that just depicts different parts in Legend of Zelda in a Mayan sort of like old art style. It's very, very cool. So if you get a chance to like circulate it around Twitter, I'm sure you'll see it on there. I've shared it on Nintendo Nostalgia's page. So John, what news do you have for us?
Well, in sort of self-serving news, I'm all about Pokemon Go right now. That's my big thing, and Pokemon Go Niantic just announced the next event. They've been trying to put together a string of events. They have just had a grass event that ended, and it was super successful. I got as many Chikorritas as I could ever hope for or long for. And so they announced their next one, which they're calling Adventure Week. And Adventure Week runs from May 18th to May 25th. And it is for, we all just call it, it's a rock event. It's an increased rock type Pokemon, which that's been fun. And in order of importance of things that are going on during that event, number one is that your buddy candy. So when you walk your buddy in Pokemon Go, they get candy after a certain number of kilometers. That candy is how you evolve them. You get candy 4 times faster. So I can hopefully finally get the Tyranitar that I've been hoping for. I only need 4. Ryan, I only need 4 more Pokemon to have all the non-regional ones, all the ones I can get while living in Indiana and not traveling anywhere else. Man, Tyranitar is one of them. I have not had any luck in hatching those Larvatars. So anyways, I've only hatched one. I've never seen one, and that's just not my thing. I've got more Pamphys than I can handle, but I have not gotten a Larvitar. So that's number one. Second, the increased rock type event, and guess what? For me, Larvitar, it's a rock type. So I'm really hoping that helps me out.
Perfect.
They also, you get more items and Pokestops in the shop. Pokeballs are half off. And then you can also, just like in the water event, when they did it for the water festival, you got a Magikarp hat. They have an Explorer's hat that is coming out. So in case you're done having a fish on your head, you can now have I don't know if it's going to be some sort of hard hat with like a light on the front, like what you think of a rock, like a rock climber would, or someone exploring caves would be wearing. So anyways, that's the most exciting things about the upcoming events.
I know that my friend Blaine would really love this. He's a hiker. Like, he even dresses up in cosplay as a hiker and goes to cons, and you can battle his rock team, and it's a pretty tough rock team. But I think he's gonna be stoked about this. Like, that's right up his alley. Like, he does the whole thing. Like, he acts it all out. He has the plushies and he gives out badges, and this is right up his alley.
Amazing. That's so great.
So, even bigger news. I hear you've brought something to the table to announce.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited. Well, I'll get to plug a little bit more about my business, Elite Trainer League, later. We are in the business though of we've created a competition in Indianapolis where we're located. We are releasing badges for 8 locations around Indianapolis for Pokemon Go trainers to take over a gym, send in a screenshot that you've taken over that gym, and then you can earn a badge. Right now, we have 3 badges released, and in the month of June, we plan to release 2 more. So that's badge 4 and 5 coming out. We'll have more info and all those things soon. Oh man, I'm really excited. It's been a while since we released the 3rd badge. We kind of had those cold winter months when Pokemon Go players in Indianapolis were staying in their cars and just driving around downtown. But now that everybody's out and walking around, we think it's about time to expand and get a couple new badges going. So that's awesome. Some fun stuff we have planned for the month of June.
That's awesome news. All right, with our news out of the way, let's get into our topic, Pokemon Snap. Pokemon Snap was released in June of 1999, the same year that that Final Fantasy VIII came out, which is one of my favorite games. But this game went toe to toe with that game. So this game has a lot of clout for being an N64 game that wasn't a main Pokemon game. It wasn't even like a stadium where you could port in your own Pokemon. It was its own unique hybrid, never before seen. Now, let's see. My first memories with this game was with John Hester playing on his N64. And I was just super stoked that there was another Pokemon game. And when I heard that you don't catch Pokemon, I was like, well, that's dumb. Like, why would you play a game where you don't catch Pokemon? I don't understand. And then I watched him play a little bit. And I saw the familiar Professor Oak, and I heard his voice, welcome. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is wonderful. Wonderful. And I was like, okay, so maybe I can get into this game. And he starts going to the first level, and I see he's got this camera, and he's taking pictures. John is taking pictures of Pokemon as he goes along. And I'm like, okay, what's the point of this? And I was like, well, there's this Pidgey that flies in front of you, take a picture, and then you'll see some of the Pokemon start to interact with each other. There's this Meowth that chases the Pidgeys, and you'll see off in the distance in the water this Lapras rise up out, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. You can just find Pokemon popping out in the wild everywhere. You can explore. This I can get into, and I was hooked from there on out. What was your first memory, Jacob?
Oh man, to be 100% honest, Pokemon Snap was, I don't think it was something I even knew was coming out. All my memories with this game are with Brad Hunzinger. A lot of my 64 memories are with Brad because I met Brad basically right at the cusp of the 64 era when I got my 64 and we started hanging out. Side note, it's kind of funny that my 64, a lot of my favorite games I actually never owned because I borrowed them from instead of renting, I borrowed games from Brad and I would beat him and he'd let me just keep them until I was done. And Pokemon Snap was one of those games. But I remember Brad getting this game for his birthday. And man, I booted this thing up tonight, and I was playing it. And I felt like everything came rushing back. I just got I don't want to say it's just a nostalgia feel. I literally felt mentally like it was back in the year when we first got this game, the late 90s. And it was awesome. It was a different take. You're right. It wasn't like Pokemon Stadium. It wasn't like any other Pokemon game we had played. And I was fine with it. I didn't have any expectations for it. I just knew it was Pokemon. And in those days, anything with Pokemon was amazing to me, So those are my first memories with it. But I basically beat this game with just like Star Fox 64. I beat this game hip to hip with Brad on this one, him and his little brothers. And I cannot wait to dive into this game to talk about the details of it because it's a very unique game. And I loved it. How about you, John?
Yeah, when I remember first hearing about this game, and like you, Ryan, when they said you weren't catching Pokemon, for me, there was no battling of Pokemon, I thought, well, why would I want to play this game? I'm taking pictures that. This must be the Pokemon game for girls. That was my middle school thought. That's not the boys' game. That's the girls when they just want to take pictures. But then my brothers rented it from Blockbuster, and we brought it home, and they started playing it, and I was like, I cannot wait to get my hands on that controller. I can take better pictures than that. I can. The competitive side of me wanted to get some better photos of Pikachus than they could ever get. And of course, being a fan of the anime series, I love that they had the Meowth character be sort of the antagonist through the entire thing. He was trying to rob a Pidgey nest in one of the levels, and just made you say, "Oh, Meowth!" What kind of hijinks? So you honestly expected Team Rocket to pop out from anywhere. They didn't, but man, it was a blast. It was fun. It wasn't as like, I didn't spend as many hours because it really, it doesn't take as long to get through the entire thing as red or blue or even gold and silver. Those were out at the time. But it was a lot of fun for sure. I remember loving it as a kid.
Now, this game didn't originally come out on the 64. It wasn't originally made for the 64. This is actually made for the 64 disk drive. And when the disk drive tanked, they're like, you know what? Let's just put it out on the 64. It can run it. So they, instead of keeping it on the disk, they put it in cartridge form and put it out to the public. And I think that was a good move, considering like we probably wouldn't have ever had access to this game. And
right.
to miss that experience would have been so sad. Like we wouldn't have known any better. But like now, like looking if that would have happened, that would have been terrible. Like,
right.
To experience Pokemon world in a completely different way, to take it from a less combative way. Yeah, you can throw pester balls and what have you, but that wasn't the focus. Like the focus was your lens, your camera. And this was a game that didn't really have villains to it. Like you said, it did have like antagonists with Meowth, but it didn't have anything other than that. Like there's like a draw where like you have to take down the villains or stop the villains. You know, you had the Team Rocket in the background, but this wasn't that case. It was just a simple, almost Zen-like experience. Though as you got into the game, it was really kind of aggravating when you try to get that perfect picture and you're just off just a little bit.
Yeah, it's more of it's less of a winning the championship and a more of a climbing Everest type experience.
Exactly.
Yes. There's no bad guy. There's no one you're trying to defeat, and you're not trying to be better than everybody else. You're trying to enjoy the Pokemon for what they were and how they were hanging out.
Enjoying Pokemon in their natural habitat.
That's right. Yeah. Steve Irwin would have approved of Pokemon Snap.
So speaking of Steve Irwin, the main character of this game was Todd Snap. Now he was the star, but he was also in the anime. He popped up and journeyed along with Ash for a while. Now was he a Brock replacement of sorts or a stand-in?
Yeah, I think he was a Brock replacement. He wasn't long standing. He didn't last too long, but because eventually they cycled Brock back into the series. But yeah, no, he made appearance. Was definitely the second guy of the trio, the main trio that they have travel around.
And as far as I can remember, the only other character in it was Professor Oak. And it was really good seeing him. It wasn't just this new professor. It was definitely someone familiar. And people didn't really know Todd at the time, because I personally actually, I think, realized who Todd was from the anime before I realized, oh, wait, that was the kid in Snap. I didn't make that connection at first. But then I was like, he's got a camera. He reminds me just like the kid in Pokemon Snap. And that was kind of how that played out. And
yeah, one of the things I loved about seeing Professor Oak is, I mean, even just at the very beginning of every one of the times that you saw him, you got to hear a bit of his voice, just a short bit of it was anime voice that you hear when you watch the show taken and put into the game. And so, I mean, in none of the other games do you actually hear anybody's voice. I mean, you just have to imagine what they sound like. Maybe they sound like you or me, but here we actually got to hear him in the game talking to us. It didn't say much. He said like, well, "Hey there," but it was it was still a little bit of expanded universe, for lack of a better term.
And there was an element with that where in school you love it when the teacher praises you, and when you took pictures and you got a good picture, like he would react accordingly, and you felt rewarded because this teacher like approves of me making these awesome photos, and I feel great. Mm-hmm. It was really a really reinforcing thing, and it improved the whole experience. Like if they wouldn't have had that voice in there, it just wouldn't be the same. Like everything came together and wove together to be this ball of nostalgia.
Well, I think what I really like about it is I think that having Professor Oak there, and verbally hearing his voice, I really think added an effect to every kid at the time. Like, it gave you a sense of familiarity. It was very simple. But like I said, like, Pokemon was so huge, a year ago. But guys, honestly, Pokemon, that's the biggest it's been in years, okay? But when Pokemon first came out, I mean, it took the world, I think, by a bigger storm than Pokemon Go did, personally. I mean, because we were getting full-length movies. The card game was just taking off. I mean, everything was insane. So everything was Pokemon. And you see Pokemon right now, but are people talking about Pokemon the way they were last summer right now still? I don't necessarily think they are. I mean, yeah, maybe more people are still back involved with it than they were the past decade. But when it first came out, Pokemon had a stronghold on pop culture, probably for maybe good 7 years there. So especially in the 90s and early 2000s. So by having Professor Oak in there, like when you go to his lab, like just that your main hub world, I guess. I mean, it literally looks like a clip straight from the cartoon. It's a 2D animation, and it's him talking to you. Like you said, you hear his voice, and in the back, it's his actual lab that's in the show. I mean, it wasn't like some varied version of like, oh, this is Professor Oak's lab. Like, no, like the way it looks in the game is exactly what you see in the show with Ash and Brock. And that's just a little touch that I think can easily be looked over, but I think it goes a long way with what made this game so cool for kids back in the day, and still today for our nostalgia.
There was only 63 Pokemon in the game, but that didn't stop the game from feeling empty. The Pokemon had personality.
Yeah.
Like Meowth raiding a Pidgey nest, and the Pidgey's coming along and gusting him and like blowing him over. And the dancing that you'd see some Pokemon do, like Jinx, and it was a very, very alive world. And you'd have these Kakunas that just drop in the forests that come down like as you're roaming around in this river, and you see even like the personality of like a Primeape or a Mankey, and they get angry if you throw things at them, and the hot-headedness of the fire Pokemon, and Electabuzz doing his shocking stuff, and
right.
And you see even like playfulness of like this Chansey that's rolling around and this Eevee chasing it. Like the personality was just so enriching. It was very robust, and I love that. That speaks to me because you didn't get those kind of connections in the video game as much. You got some of those connections, like, Bye Bye Pikachu, or Bye Bye Butterfree, I mean, and the Pikachu episode where Ash tried to say goodbye to Pikachu, and things that just grab you. But those are really the snapshots that you got. But this was a whole world of personality, and that just draws you in. It was the most engaging experience I've ever had in the Pokemon world, and I think that helped me even to get into the role-playing side of things with the mainline Pokemon games, and to really connect with it on a personal level. So this was definitely a supplement towards that whole series for me.
And this was one of the first times we got to actually see Pokemon move, too. Mm-hmm. They have been still sprites before this time, and now we get to see an Electabuzz run, or we get to see a small tussle between a Magmar and a Charmander. But then if you throw something at the right time, the Charmander comes back as a Charmeleon and knocks the Magmar out. Like, it's just, you get to see legendary birds hatch from eggs and fly around. You can even find Pikachu flying on the back of Articuno if you do it right. I mean, seeing all of these, I mean, and just random things like an Eevee playing with a Chansey, and there's a coughing that's harassing a Jigglypuff, like just such random interactions between Pokemon in a moving, living world.
Yeah, that was what was so cool. I think it's a great way to kind of like segue about like actually like what the game did. It's a lot more than just snapping a photo of a Pokemon or a cool looking Charmander or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you got points based on the size of like how big the Pokemon was. So like if it's kind of off in the distance, you might not get a lot of points for that. But if it's like right up in your face, you get points for that. Bigger points. Because Professor Oak, if you don't know, like you get to select your favorite photos that you think are your best at the end of each level. And then Professor Oak reviews them and he grades you on them. Mm-hmm. And then so if you have a Pikachu that's just standing there and he's just kind of just looking at you, you're not going to get a ton of points for that. But later on, like the game has you interact with Pokemon in different ways, such as you get apples. That's the first item you get. There's like a little puff ball. I don't know what it was called. You know what I'm talking about? You throw it and it'll just like
Pester ball.
Yes, the Pester ball. And then you get the Pokemon flute too. I think that's the only items you get. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes. Well, there's an upgrade to your vehicle, the 01, but those are pretty much what you get.
Yeah, you're right, because you can speed it up and slow it down. You're right. But that allows you to do a lot more different things because so if I have one Charmander that I'm getting a photo from, but say I get the apple ability and I start throwing a bunch of apples, I'm going to get like 7 or 8 Charmanders, like a group of them coming together, and they're all going to be eating and they're all going to be like jumping and being happy and playing with each other. Like you're going to get a lot more bigger points by making these Charmanders interact, and you're getting like a more, I don't know, in-depth photo of Pokemon nature there, of seeing Pokemon interact instead of just getting a little Charmander by himself. So that's what's really, really cool about this game is that you can do these things. You can evolve Pokemon. I mean, like you said with the Pikachu riding an Articuno, like I think the funniest things about this game was the things you could make Pikachu do.
Yeah.
You can make him ride a surfboard. You can get the balloon floating Pikachu, and you can get him riding a legendary Articuno. There's probably some other stuff that I can't think of at the time, but no, this game was just really fun and unique to try to find different ways because you didn't need every Pokemon. Like you said, Ryan, there's only, 67? Is that right?
63,
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, 63. You didn't need all 151 Pokemon in the game at the time. That's as many there were. Because there were so many things that Nintendo and Game Freak figured out that you could do with these Pokemon to get unique photos to make the game fun and challenging. Because it was a challenge to make some Pokemon do certain things.
It took you through a lot of different locations, and that's just different environments to find Pokemon in. You would go through the beach, of course, with the surfboard and get Pikachu to get on the surfboard, and you saw the Laprases off in the distance. That's kind of your intro level. Then you go to this tunnel, and there's more rocks and Zubats and what have you. And then you have a volcano. I think my favorite part in the volcano was I always had to knock that, I believe it was Charmeleon, into the lava and get him to evolve into the Charizard. That
There you go.
so epic. So awesome. Rewarding too. There's a river scene.
Because the Charizard busts out of lava and just starts spraying fire at you too. That's one of my favorite pictures that you can get. It's just a close up of Charizard being really ticked off at you.
Absolutely.
And it takes some really, really skill shots to do these types of things, just to hit them with the ball at the right times, and then also to get that perfect picture. And it was a grading system that I'd never seen in a video game before. It paid attention to detail. As we go on to some other locales like rivers, caves, there's even a valley one. It's very, I guess, valleys, plains. I believe you're still running through a river in that one. Is that correct? In the valley, I believe that may be where the Magikarp play in, if I remember right. It's been a while since I played the Valley one. It was my least favorite of them, but I believe that's the one at the waterfall where you fall down or you go down the big long waterfall. And
yes.
Okay, so that was the one with the Magikarp where if you can coax the Magikarp in a certain way to get it to climb the waterfall. And then Gyarados will pop out of the waterfall.
Yeah, I believe that's one of the difficult ones to accomplish. Like
It's extremely hard. I think that was the most difficult, if not counting the final like area picture. That one was pretty.
Like you have to be precise where you land the item. I mean, it's literally just like the center of a camera. That's your targeting thing, and there's no lock on. You have to aim it just right and get it good. I want to say something real quick about the levels. While you're talking about them, like it wasn't all linear path. Something that was really cool that they added was that like last week with Star Fox. You remember how we talked about how you could predict how things happened, kind of like a story element.
Yes.
This game, what was really cool, and I thought as a kid, I thought this was one of the most fun things was if you did certain things, you had to. If you made certain Pokemon do certain things, you would open up alternate routes to different levels. And like you couldn't get to those levels unless you figured out how to do this. And in the game, some are pretty like open, like it's pretty obvious. Like there's an Electrode. Spoiler alert, there's an Electrode sitting in front of a giant piled up rocks that if you make him blow up, explode, it's going to happen to open up a new area, but there's a lot more harder things like that level with the Magikarp and Gyarados. I do know, I can't remember how to do it off the top of my head, but I do remember that one being very hard to open up an alternate path to get down a certain area.
Would you say that this is the ideal way to play a photography type game? Like if you strip away all of the Pokemon and you take the grading system and the on rails, could you see this like flourishing anywhere else, or do you think it's just something that's only in Pokemon? Like this is made for Pokemon. You couldn't find it any other way.
One of the things that makes it, I think, so captivating in the world of Pokemon is this is one of the franchises that you have 150 characters that you know, and that you're excited to see 150 different personas, I guess. There's not a lot of other things. If you did it in the Mario world, sure, you can take pictures of different bad guys or enemies, but that's not what you're doing here. You're not going to find Goombas in their natural habitat, and nor would you be very excited to take pictures of them. But for Pokemon, you get to see a wide variety of characters that you know and love, but aren't sort of like if they made. I can't see this being done in any other scenario and be as lovable or endearing.
Yeah. There's a cute factor to Pokemon, but there's also kind of a tough factor too as they evolve, and some of them are rough around the edges, but some of them are just adorable. And would I love to see a new Pokemon Snap come out with new Pokemon and maybe a new medium? Yeah, I would love that. Absolutely love that. Where do you see the future of the Snap line? Could you see them making sequels? Do you think they should have already made sequels? What do you guys think?
One thing I know that they've added in elements in Sun and Moon specifically, where you can take pictures. There are certain spots, like lookout spots. There's some in certain cities, some along walking paths, even one on top of a volcano, where you can you walk up to it, you stand, and now your Pokedex, which is possessed by a Rotom, now becomes a camera, and you can take pictures, which are then essentially uploaded online to a fake online and rated by fans. But it's similar where you go at different frequencies, and you can see different Pokemon running around. If you go one place, if you stay at one place and you look several different times, you'll find a few different types of Pokemon. Now, you're stationary. Those Pokemon are moving around, and that's what makes it difficult. Is they're running away from you and running toward, and then doing their poses and their dances or whatever else you would call it. So I think that they've. I don't know if that's just a fun throwback, or if that's let me gauge the interest, or a hint at what's coming in the future. I could easily see with the almost frustrating amount of saturation of legendary and mythical Pokemon, I could see them doing one exclusively for legendary and mythical Pokemon. I could see that happening very easily.
What I would like to add to this is that, first off, let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Nintendo has missed grand opportunities to make a proper sequel to Pokemon. Like,
yes,
the Wii U gamepad was a proper, very perfect system to make a sequel to it, hands down, and it would have sold well. I mean, it really would have. But I thought a lot about what would a sequel look like, because we're in a way different world with Pokemon today than what we were when this game first came out. So I think you'd have to use it wisely. I think a lot of people would want to see the Kanto Pokemon in there. And it's like, how many Pokemon are you going to put in the game? How many levels will there be? How many different environments? Because there's different elements now. There's so many different Pokemon. Do you restrict it to one island, or do you go to different regions? That's how you experience more Pokemon instead of it just being on an island, which I think would be really cool. So I think a cell phone's a lot, because we always have our cell phone on us, but a cell phone's not the best. It's not professional. I mean, it's very awesome compared to what we had back in the day. But I thought, there could be different kind of campaigns. Like, I would want the mainline campaign of being in a car or whatever, and you do what we did in the first Pokemon Snap and work your way up to find a key legendary in the end of the game and get photos of it. But I think it would be really cool to have different features in the game, as in, like, you got the mainline story mode, but you also have, like, take photos, and then, like, we have things like Instagram, and you have social media. And could you imagine them, like, taking everything we have and with the power of our cell phones and, like, seeing, like, if you had, like, a Photoshop activity and, like, there was a contest in the game, you could earn and unlock things by editing your photo and making it look great, and, like, you get it on the front of Poketime magazine of the year, and or Pokemodels, whatever they have in the Pokemon world. And it's, like, just beautiful stuff. And that's how you unlock and further progress in the game, to unlock maybe if you get enough, maybe you make money by selling photos, and you get a lot of money by, like, editing it. And you could, if you raise enough money, you get to go to the legendary island, kind of similar to what John was saying about a game, but, like, this is where you're going to find harder, more rare Pokemon to see. I could just see little things like that, because there's so many Pokemon now.
That's exactly how I imagined a sequel to go. Was like maybe Todd or someone, like, starts a Pokemon National Geographic or magazine. Basically, how well you do, well, actually, at the end of that run, you get to see the print of the magazine and where your pictures fit in the story, and you can actually kind of read the article even of that area and learn some about the island that you just visited with, like, the natives, or if it's a barren island, there's no people living there or anything like that. That would be a really cool element. Now, I went, like, further, like, future tech, even sometimes in my imaginings, where I would think, well, what if they take the Switch and they do the whole VR thing, and you can look around with the VR, like, headset, and be able to take pictures in these locales and be in the 0-1, like, you're on the rails, but you actually turned your head and you take your snapshots with the Joy-Cons in your hand. That would be really cool. Like, even if, Nintendo likes to do their gimmicky things, but have, like, a Joy-Con dock that's like a camera type thing. It feels like the weight of the camera, so you're, like, taking a picture with the professional camera, like, silly things like that would just make the game so much more enriching and just really get you involved in, like, a VR world. That would be really cool, because you go at your own pace as you turn your head. There's not a lot of, like, zooming really fast and getting, like, feeling motion sickness. Like, you're in control of all that. You're moving at a slow pace on rails. You could probably speed it up and slow it down based on that, but within reason, of course, you don't feel like motion sickness. But I think that'd be kind of a really cool element. Now that they've gone past the Wii U gamepad, where you could, like, turn it around and stuff, like, to go further into, like, a virtual reality type world, or even augmented reality, if they wanted to incorporate some kind of, like, futuristic Pokemon Go thing. But that's kind of how I saw the series evolving.
That's very, very meta, including Pokemon Go, and which, again, Pokemon Go does have a camera feature. Like, you can switch and just take a picture of Pokemon instead of trying to catch it. Now, there's really no function for that in the game, other than you get a cute picture like on your phone, but or you can pretend to have like a Weedle in your hand. But other than that, that's really the only function. No, I think I would love to see this paired with VR. I think that would be amazing. And Jacob, I really like the idea of moving through the different regions. And I don't think that they would. Current podcast release, there's over 800 Pokemon now. With Sun and Moon, it was up to 722 before Sun and Moon came out, and now there's even more. And they recently released a new Ghost type too. That's like a Ghost Marshmallow. But there would be a very bulky game if you had to try to capture 800 different Pokemon on film. Because you don't beat the game in Pokemon Snap until you got all 63, and you actually can't go and access. If I'm remembering correctly, you can't go to the final level until you get the first 62.
Absolutely.
So it would be extremely difficult. I don't know how they would narrow that down, or if they would have some sort of checklist to know which ones you have to get.
I mean, I think it would have to be limited. I think the fun part of Pokemon Snap was the simplicity of it. Like, they didn't throw every Pokemon in there, and that was the smallest number of Pokemon we ever had in a family. I really think you have to very carefully select which Pokemon you want from each region, from each generation, and include them. So I don't know. I mean, it would be tricky to do. It would be a way bigger, hefty game than what their first Pokemon Snap was, but the potential's there. And and I can just say, I can see this in the world of DLC now. Like, they very well could easily have patches of, give you, like, maybe the bulk of the game is on an island, and then they give you, like, I don't know, maybe they give you the Johto themed island, and then instead of like actually going to the region. So it's not like I'm actually in Johto exploring, but each island could have its own set of different generation Pokemon on it. And that could be a DLC pack down the road. Not that I'm saying I want this behind a paywall, but I'm saying it's something to give this game life for a long time instead of giving us one game and we don't get another one for over 20 years. You know what I'm saying?
Pay for your plane ticket to fly over to a new region. It makes sense, right?
Basically. And I mean, and let's face it, like, what we're saying right now, like, you talk about Pokemon Go, like, this game could be a mobile app. Not that I want it to be a mobile app, but it very well could be a mobile app to where, like, you're walking around and you are taking photos with your phone of different Pokemon, and it has similar features. Like, maybe you know how you have Pokeballs and Great Balls of Pokemon Go. Like, what if you threw like an apple at it and it had the same effect as what Pokemon Snap would do, and you make it do certain things, and you're getting I mean, that would be really cool, I guess. I would actually probably be more interested personally to play that than even Pokemon Go, to get some nice photos of it.
Because in Pokemon Go, most players have abandoned the augmented reality viewpoint from the camera. We don't use that anymore. It makes it more difficult to catch Pokemon. It's funny to get a screenshot here and there of a Pokemon in a weird position, but other than that, it's useless. It's a fun little side aspect to it. But what you're saying would actually put some it would put some purpose behind that feature.
Yeah.
More than just, I feel like I'm catching Pokemon, but it could actually, I mean, granted, I don't know how deep the coding would have to go in that. I don't know if they'd have to figure out how to identify what a tree looked like or something, and then have Pidgeys popping in and out of trees. I mean, it would, I don't know what the capability is of that. I'm sure people a lot smarter than me can figure that out, but that also could enhance the need to travel as well. They could truly make some things, because right now it's the regionals. There's a handful. There's of regionals from each area, but I can catch a Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle in Indianapolis, downtown Indianapolis. It's not like I have to find a volcano around here in order to find a Charmander, or I don't even have to go to a river or even a wet area to find a Squirtle. But maybe that could be an increase. Now, granted, you aren't going to have a whole lot of people who will travel far and wide for low incentive just to say I did it mobile app game. Mm-hmm. So there's the rub. As cool as it would be in concept, and as obsessed as I am with the Pokemon franchise, I wouldn't be able to do it. As someone who has a family at home, has a 9 to 5, that's just not feasible for me.
Well, we are coming to the end of our episode. So, John, let us know. Tell our viewers where they can find these games.
If you want to go on the amazing Pokemon Snap adventure, like we all have and have been talking about, if you have an N64, feel free to go on Amazon and grab it. With you can get a copy without the box for about $15 now. But if you have a Wii or a Wii U, you can grab it on the Virtual Console. That's my recommended way of playing now, and you are not going to regret it because it is a blast.
I think that's the only way you can get it, guys.
Well, unless you want to try to find a working 64 DD, and that's complicated.
Yeah, that is.
Excuse me, that's how I was playing it today. Go buy a cartridge in a 64. I mean, that's the best system that ever. So there's no better way to play it.
So where can people find you, John?
Find me. We have multiple places to find me. Again, for you Indianapolis Pokemon Go players, you can find us at EliteTrainerLeague.com, or if you want to interact with a community of people who are working together to earn badges around the Indianapolis area, who are sharing tips and screenshots of their victories. Join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/EliteTrainerLeague.
Jacob, want to take it away?
So you can find us on clearly on SoundCloud or on iTunes. You can also find us on Google Play now, so that's something new we're at. You can find us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/NintendoNOS. Twitter is twitter.com/Nintendo_NOS. And then we have an email as well, NintendoNostalgiaIN@gmail.com. Those are the places you can find us. Guys, please continue to go on to our iTunes account. We really love comments, star ratings. People have been doing it, and guys, they mean a lot. They really do, and they help us shape our show and tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. We really want to just continue to grow and make a better show for you guys. So if you're new to the show and you haven't done that yet, please feel free to do that. And join us on our chat. On our Facebook page, we have a personal chat that we have that people can get in and have conversations. And I can tell you the past couple of weeks especially, we've had just some good talks about just the games that we've been talking about here and just everyone's memories. And that's what it's all about. It's not just our nostalgia, it's your nostalgia, what you remember. We want to hear about that stuff. So please follow us on there. If you want to follow me personally on Twitter, I'm at NOS Jacob 73. So that's me on Twitter if you want to follow me there. But yeah, that's where you can find us.
If you want to find me, I am found on Twitter at Metroid Hunter. And that pretty much wraps up the show, guys. Thank you for listening as always, and I hope you have a great week. See you next week.
Yeah. Pokemon snap you later. Bye.